Hello everyone, I'm Bobby. Today I'm bringing you a little review on the Feiyutech G6 Plus gimbal. Recently the wife wanted to get into photography, so I started looking at gimbals as well, just to do some videoing, mainly because I want to get an action cam and do some cool shots as well with her. So I was looking at a couple of gimbals and the Feiyutech looked decent for the price and it has some good specs. So I've had this for a couple of days and I've been testing it out, and it is a good gimbal. I feel it's probably, not being a reviewer in such, or even having tried any other gimbals, from my point of view as a first time user, it's a nice build. I like the build. There's a few things I would like to see changed if they did a revision, which is mainly due to just compatibility in itself, so it hits itself. That's one thing I think it would be nice to avoid. The other thing is, when I was using my phone, there's a couple of things on that is annoying. The section that holds your phone doesn't work with cases, so something needs to come up against that, because otherwise people aren't going to want to keep taking their cases off their phones all the time, and it just gives it added protection in case you knock it, it falls off. The other thing, which is really annoying, is when I did take my case off, the spring inside the clamp section for the actual phone itself, when the motor got to a certain position, it was vibrating and it was causing the rattle inside the phone clamp housing. So that was really annoying. So you get to a certain point, you tilt it forwards to go look at something, the motor just gets to a certain section and the gimbal has got a little bit of resistance in it because of maybe the motion. It's not topped out, but it still vibrates and it causes an awful racket in the spring mechanism. It's awful, it's annoying. The other thing, I have a Mate 20 Pro Huawei, and the app and the gimbal itself doesn't work. Well, I say it doesn't work, it does work, but not very well. So I'll use the zoom feature, but it's not actually zooming, it's doing EV mode. I don't actually know what that is. I'll go to another section like focus and it will start zooming in. So the compatibility between phone and the actual software from the gimbal needs to be sorted out really quickly, because that's not good at all. The other thing that I noticed, actually going back to the phone housing, when I first set it up, phones are getting bigger nowadays, so it was hanging slightly further off than it would be, but it was butted up against the back adjuster. One of the motors got really hot, and because I've never used them before, I'm conscious about motors and all this sort of stuff, so I was just checking out, making sure that things weren't overheating. But one of the motors got really hot and I'm like, that's a bit weird, shouldn't be doing that. So I took it off, let it cool down, put a compact camera on it, and it was fine. And I reset it and I was like, don't understand that, so I didn't do it again. So I can't quite work out that one. Did all the firmware update straight away, which took forever. The build quality itself is nice, I like the build quality. The buttons seem really secure. The little display that you get, sorry, I'm just looking at the display, I don't like. It's just a flexy plastic covering, and I've had it a couple of days and it's already scratched. I don't even barely touch that thing. How the hell does it scratch so quickly? That needs to be a tiny little bit of glass with an anti-scratch coating or something, because it's just awful. It's one thing that I find that it should have been sorted out. The other thing I got straight away is I got a much bigger tripod, because at the moment I'm holding it by the tripod and it feels so much nicer using the tripod. Other than that, I think the build quality is quite nice. The way it looks is quite nice. I find that some of the motions aren't as smooth as they could be. I'm still learning, maybe it's just a setup thing. I'm not quite sure on that one. I've tried messing around with it quite a lot. I'm trying to work out all the different setups versus like button trigger holding and the pan and tilts and locking mode. So it's done okay. I still think it's a good unit. It's not an entry unit, it's probably just above that, so it's good for me. If I was to have known this, I might have perhaps looked at more of the Ronin SE from DJI. If the wife gets more into photography, then I may even buy one of them anyway, just as so I can trial that as well, because that's meant to be a really nice gimbal. The image stabilization, I feel, is decent. It doesn't take out everything, whereas from when I was watching other reviews, they make it seem like it's really good, like pretty good on the smoothness, but I'm still finding it jolts around ever so slightly. But I don't have any super duper software to take stuff out. I just pretty much like to film things and do as little editing as possible. It holds a decent sized camera, so we're trialing out a Olympus Mac E5 Mark II or Mark III, I can't remember what one it is, with a decent sized lens, and it seems to hold that pretty well. The only thing is you've got not a lot of room at the back where the viewfinder is, so you get to a certain point when you're holding it down to the floor and it hits the viewfinder, so there's a bit of lack of room at the back on the side to side selector. But other than that, it's fairly decent. I like the gimbal, and that's all I've got to say at the moment about it. Thank you very much.